Washington never confirmed it, but in the winter of 2019 a ghost fleet of unmarked jets began landing at a renovated black site in the Nevada desert. On board were 882 African nationals, engineers, students, market women, and one ex-child soldier, now reduced to case numbers beginning with AF-. Their disappearance never made the docket of any court. Only a single gold-trimmed memo slipped into the Oval Office safe. Inside the Oval Office, the president circled the memo with a Sharpie and said, "Gold pays for prisoners, always has." Then he closed the folder, smiled at the African envoys, and slid a list across the resolute desk. 47 mines, 14 oil blocks, 3 uranium basins. "Hand these over," he told them, "and your people fly home tomorrow. Refuse, and the desert keeps them forever." The envoys left in silence. The world's most powerful man had just privatized human lives. The detention order was signed on January 17, 2019 under National Security Directive 42, drafted by a trio of advisors who had cut their teeth on 1980s Angola proxy wars. Officially, the prisoners were material witnesses to unspecified terrorism probes. Unofficially, they were hostages to a resource for ransom scheme codenamed Operation Midas Touch. Satellite images, later leaked to the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, showed fresh tarmac and double fences at the Tonopah test range. Inside, detainees were sorted by passport. Nigerians to Block A, Ghanaians to Block B, a handful of Francophone technicians to Block C. Interrogators asked not about militancy but about mineshaft depths, refining capacity, and royalty schedules. Every answer was cross-checked against USGS data. Discrepancies earned solitary confinement in 40-foot shipping containers painted desert tan. Across Africa, central bank reserves dipped as jittery investors priced in expropriation risk. South Africa's rand fell 11% in 3 trading days. Ghana's finance minister canceled a Eurobond roadshow. In closed sessions at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, legal counsel warned that public disclosure could trigger IMF sanctions under the Terrorist Financing Convention. So the leaders swallowed the humiliation and sent private envoys instead. Nigeria's president, an ex-general who had once fought Biafran secessionists, flew to Mar-a-Lago in March. He carried a leather portfolio, seismic charts of the offshore Egina field, a preliminary concession deed for the Gusau gold belt, and a personal letter pleading for the release of 314 Nigerian detainees. Trump reportedly glanced at the letter, then asked, "Where's the signature page?" The general refused. The meeting ended with a handshake that felt, he later told aides, like squeezing a cold ingot. Back home, Nigeria's National Security Advisor convened an Emergency Resources for Lives task force. Options ranged from quiet compliance to asymmetric retaliation, shutting ExxonMobil pipelines, withdrawing peacekeepers from Mali, or freezing U.S. Treasury purchases. Each carried a price tag measured in GDP points and American goodwill. The cabinet split 50-50. The matter was tabled pending further intelligence. In the desert, the prisoners waited, unaware that their fates were line items on a spreadsheet titled O Export Scenarios. The first public tremor came not from Washington or Abuja but from Ouagadougou. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, 34, had seized power in Burkina Faso, vowing to end Francofrique vampirism. On September 2, 2022, he summoned the charge d'affaires of the U.S. Embassy and handed over a 2-page communiqué stamped with the new coat of arms, an upright sword superimposed on a gold nugget. The document read like a courtroom indictment. It listed the 882 names, the tail numbers of the rendition aircraft, and the tonnage of gold the U.S. had imported from Africa in the previous decade. The final paragraph warned, should these citizens not be repatriated within 90 days, we will consider their continued detention an act of war under Article 2(4) of the UN Charter, and reserve the right to retrieve them by every means necessary, including Joint Expeditionary Force. Analysts dismissed it as bluster. Burkina's entire defense budget could not fuel a single F-16 squadron. Yet within weeks the ultimatum was co-signed by Mali, Niger, and Guinea, whose juntas had grown allergic to Western leverage. Quietly, Algeria offered satellite overflights. Morocco, eager to curry favor, hinted at port access. The coalition's combined gold reserves exceeded 120 tons, enough to finance a short, sharp campaign if cash were converted to Russian ordnance. Inside the Pentagon, Africa Command ran a simulation dubbed Operation Desert Ledger. The scenario assumed a 3-pronged assault. Desert Special Forces infiltrating Tonopah, Cyber Command freezing SWIFT channels, and simultaneous popular uprisings outside U.S. embassies in Accra and Lagos. Wargamers priced American casualties at 70 to 120, African at 400 to 600, and global gold futures spiking 38%. The Joint Chiefs briefed the White House. Militarily winnable, economically catastrophic. Trump reportedly listened, then asked, "But what's the dollar value of fear?" No minutes record the answer. Behind the scenes, Traoré's envoys met discreetly with private military contractors, dangling gold for service contracts denominated in bullion. The contractors, mostly ex-French legionnaires and South African bush war veterans, calculated that a battalion-sized force could be airlifted via Caracas and Managua, using shell companies registered in Dubai. Satellite phones and night vision goggles began arriving in Ouagadougou's military quarter. The 90-day clock ticked. Washington yawned, convinced that Africa's bark was louder than its bite. On day 87, Burkina State Television broadcast a silent clip. A convoy of Toyota pickups heading north, each tailgate stamped with the words "Squadron Gold Retrieval." The world still did not believe. The prisoners, hearing the news on a contraband shortwave radio, believed enough to start scratching morale slogans on their container walls. The American political earthquake arrived on January 20, 2025, the day Zoran Mamdani placed his left hand on a weathered copy of Fanon's Wretched of the Earth and took the presidential oath. At 32, the Uganda-born, Queens-raised former state legislator had ridden a wave of millennial disgust with forever wars and resource extortion. In his inaugural address, he devoted only 90 seconds to domestic policy. The rest was a forensic dissection of Operation Midas Touch. America, he said, voice steady, will no longer barter human beings for geological veins. Within hours, he signed Executive Order 14099, immediate declassification of all detention files, unconditional repatriation of the 882, and a Justice Department special counsel to probe resource hostage diplomacy. C-17 Globemasters were airborne by dusk. Medics on board carried vaccines, not shackles. The first plane load touched down at Murtala Muhammad Airport at 4:12 local time. Nigerian state television showed mothers ululating as ex-detainees knelt to kiss tarmac still warm from the engines. Gold markets, anticipating a supply glut from renewed African confidence, dipped 6% before recovering. Mamdani's calculus was cold, not charitable. CIA briefings estimated that continuing Trump's scheme would provoke asymmetric attacks on U.S. mining interests across 14 countries, wiping $120 billion off American balance sheets within 18 months. More importantly, the BRICS bloc had threatened to denominate critical minerals in a new bullion-backed currency if Washington stonewalled. By releasing the prisoners, Mamdani preempted a monetary insurrection and rebranded the U.S. as a reformed partner. Yet apology came with fine print. The same executive order authorized a 15% import tariff on African gold until each detained national received $50,000 in moral damage compensation, funded by a special drawing account at the Federal Reserve. African finance ministers grumbled about neo-protectionism but privately calculated that guaranteed market access outweighed the levy. Traoré, now chair of the Accra-based Pan-African Security Council, called the tariff the price of dignity and canceled the retrieval invasion. Containers that had been loaded with Kalashnikovs were quietly emptied and repurposed for grain storage. In the Nevada desert, the Tonopah facility was turned over to UNESCO as a site of conscience, its barbed wire preserved under plexiglass. Tour guides, former guards on federal probation, now recount how geopolitics once pivoted on a yellow metal. Visitors leave with a small card: resources are finite, humanity is not. The ex-detainees, meanwhile, formed a cooperative that trades ethically sourced gold at a premium, proving that leverage can be mutual. The world stepped back from a war nobody wanted, but everybody had rehearsed. Question the stories your government never files under official. Demand transparency on how natural wealth and human lives are balanced. Support journalists, vote for accountability, and remember, every bar of gold has a fingerprint. Sometimes it matches a heartbeat. This chronicle never appeared on any front page. It unfolded in flight plans, ledger entries, and hushed airport corridors. Still, its lesson is printable in bold. When nations treat people as entries on a commodity spreadsheet, someone somewhere will eventually refuse the math. Africa's refusal in this alternate 2025 did not just free 882 hostages. It retilted the axis of global bargaining power. The story ends not with victory parades but with a quiet understanding. Leverage is only durable when shared, and dignity, once reclaimed, is the hardest currency of all.